Hello and welcome to r/Stories About Kevin. A Kevin is someone who consistently or greatly shows a complete lack of intelligence through incompetence or social and societal norms, or is purposefully antagonistic in their poor decision making. From Juice Pants. Years ago, when I was but a wee tween, my friends and I walked a few blocks to a local taco truck to get some food. This particular truck was right off a local highway frequented by truckers shipping goods all across the country. On the way home, we all saw a water bottle filled with a mysterious brown liquid. Friend 1 and 2 walk past the bottle saying nothing about it at all. They just keep eating their tacos. Kevin, in front of me, and another friend suddenly yells, "Hey guys, look what I found!" Kevin picked up the bottle with a mischievous look on his face. My immediate thought is, he's gonna do something awful, like throw the bottle at one of us, or a car. I barely get the words, "Kevin, what are you doing?" out before he brings the bottle to his face and unscrews the cap. "Oh my god, it's pee!" he screams horrified. Then he spikes the bottle to the ground and liquid splashes everywhere. He begins to run. Moments later, the most noxious smell I've ever smelled hit my nose. This wasn't simple porta potty in the summer smell. No, it was the urine of a trucker whose diet consists of Mountain Dew junk food and not nearly enough water. This urine had fermented in the July sun for untold days until it obtained a rich hickory colour. This urine was now assaulting my nose with a hatred I thought was reserved for demons and other malevolent entities. I joined Kevin in fleeing from the noxious smell. We get about 50 feet away from the disaster and stop to regain our composure. Out of nowhere, I vomit. The sight of this causes a friend to vomit. This causes another friend to vomit, which then causes me to vomit again. Then about halfway between the bottle and ourselves is our fat friend, who never ran, standing there idly, eating his tacos. I ask how he could possibly continue to eat after all that. He kinda just shrugs and takes another bite. We all laugh, and then someone finally asks Kevin, "Why in the world did you open that bottle?" He replies sheepishly, "I thought it was beer." Why would anyone put beer in a water bottle and leave it on the road? Also, beer is not that colour. From College Kid 398. My Kevin and I were hanging out with some friends and decided to make our own pizza. It turned out great. Then his logic kicked in. Pizza is cut into triangles. Therefore, to cut pizza, you have to cut it into triangles, independently of each other. Guys, this was the most asymmetrical pizza I've ever eaten. To be clear, the first cut was to the centre-ish of the pizza. The second cut made a single slice that was mostly triangular. In the end, there was a rectangle piece, one that was mostly an arc, and several that had weird chunks cut out of them, all different sizes. I asked him why he didn't just cut across the diameter a few times, and he said the idea hadn't occurred to him. He's 26 and has been eating pizza his whole life. From Never Too Many Tadpoles. This is my first post here, but it likely won't be my last. My boyfriend is a Kevin, and I have a lot of stories. Today we had pretzels, and we smoked a joint earlier. Kevin gets an idea and asks me for the lighter. He tries to smoke the pretzel. It burns and goes out. He eats the burnt part when I tell him, "Kevin, you should bite the other side of the pretzel so you can actually smoke it." And he does. It works. He took a hit of the pretzel. He then says, "Oh my eyebrow crunchy." He burned his eyebrow. Oh my lord. From Guillaume PW07. My best friend is a Kevin, whose name is actually Kevin. He's a great guy and we've been friends for a while, but some things he believes. He claims that Athena created the sirens in Greek mythos because Gorgon has a similar ending to siren. How he thinks that makes sense, I have no clue, but he insists that he's right. He thinks waterbending from the Nickelodeon series Avatar: The Last Airbender is real. He says you can harness energy and control water just like in the TV series. Unsurprisingly, he has never proven this claim. Kevin constantly claims swords are a more sophisticated weapon than guns. No matter how many times I use, logic and reason to prove him wrong, he says that at close range, a knife would beat an unloaded gun, and that the guy in Tokyo Ghoul killed a building full of monsters with a sword, so he's right. He's not. Kevin is under the impression that tea with special herbs can allow one to transport to another dimension. I don't even know where to begin with this one. So those are my stories about Kevin. Hope you enjoy. From SLJ7. Throughout the years, my mother has repeatedly turned on the wrong burner on every electric stove we've owned. Usually this results in her wondering why food isn't cooking, and then realizing a moment later, However, I've lived on my own in the same small apartment for 8 years, and she's gotten into the unfortunate habit of putting things on the stove when she runs out of counter space. One of my cutting boards has 2 separate imprints of a burner on it, partly thanks to her. I now have a rule that nothing goes on the stove unless it's for cooking. She doesn't seem to have learned a lesson though. Last night at 2:30 AM I woke up to the burning smell of plastic and a smoke alarm. After I opened the window and turned it off, I went to investigate. Turns out my mum had made a midnight snack, accidentally turned on 2 separate burners, and had the bright idea of putting her laptop on the stove so she could continue watching Netflix on it. She says she started noticing the burning smell and didn't realise what was happening until her laptop shut down. The terrifying thing was that it didn't power down. She brought me her computer with most of the back completely melted, and the fan was going insane. I couldn't even pull the battery immediately because of the plastic, and found the switches was melted. So I just held the power button. It's a cheap Elite book from around 2014, and normally you can just slide the back off, but part of it is so melted that I had to rip the other pieces off around it. Surprisingly, the internals seem to be fine, certainly the hard drive at least, so I can get her files back if nothing else. She is probably going to try using it later, and I'm mildly afraid. From Bagels, OWO. Okay, so this just happened recently. I've been starting to do my laundry and I noticed a few of my shirts went missing and didn't pay much attention to it because it probably didn't make it into the washer and still on my floor. I noticed later that my older sister is wearing one of my anime shirts that my friend gave me. I looked at the shirt and then at her. Me. That's my shirt. Sis, I found it in the dryer. I give her the most confused and annoyed look I've ever given someone and continued. Me. That's my shirt. Sis. I'm sorry, I'll give it to you later. Then she walks off, still with my shirt. This isn't the first time she's accidentally stole my laundry, like when she almost took all my socks, and when I confronted her about it, she always says, "Oh sorry," or "I found them in my room." I don't know if this qualifies as a Kevin story, but it makes me feel like she's more and more of a Kevin. From Silver Spoonsies. Okay, so I'm 22 now and probably will not forget this guy for as long as I have a decent memory of high school. My school wasn't the best. In fact, we were one of the lowest scoring schools in the area, which probably explains why it was full of Kevins and Kevinas. But this guy was just something else. I had a lot of classes with Kevin at the start of high school, and for some reason all the girls had a crush on him. He apparently lost his V card at age 10. I refused to believe it because he was disgusting. One class we had was personal and social education. This is for things like drug talk, sex ed, etc. One day we were talking about our dream jobs. Now, we're like 13 or 14 at this time, and unfortunately for me, our teacher put Kevin right at the front, next to me, so she could keep an eye on him. We go around the room and talk about the careers we want. It gets to me and I said something along the lines of maybe becoming an animator, because I'm good at cartoons, just not realistic drawing. Then we get to Kevin, and the teacher gives a heavy sigh when he says it's his turn, because we all know it's going to be gross or stupid. "I want to be a porn star," he proudly announces, with his stupidest smile. I have the balls for it. So the teacher tells him it has to be serious. Fine. Sperm donor. That was the end of that. Same class, same seats. This time we had to get to know our classmates, even though we spent 2 or 3 years with each other already. We had to write a small talk about ourselves and our family members. So I mentioned that I'm chronically ill and explain why it sucks. But when I get back to my seat, Kevin moves his chair away. What are you doing? I'm obviously confused here. I didn't want to catch what you have. I'm dumbfounded. I didn't think anyone could be so stupid. It's not contagious. I was born with it. Don't ask why I tried to explain this, because it didn't work. He whined until the teacher finally moved him. He stole a teacher's brand new iPhone from her desk. He got caught because he was the last person to leave registration that morning, and he asked the teacher if he could see the phone. He did this because he wanted to get his girlfriend at the time a better Christmas present, because he wanted everyone to think he was rich. In the drama class, he pulled out a used condom from his bag and paraded it around on his head. He wouldn't tell us where he got it from. The teacher caught him trying to tie it to someone's backpack, and he still refused to tell anyone where it came from. Last I heard, he's a father to a girl from a different school. I don't think they're together anymore. But he also apparently bought a car, even though he hasn't passed his driving test or even started lessons. This car was expensive. He thinks he's basically bought a sports car. It's not. He bought a rundown car that I think is something small like a Toyota Yaris. It's covered in rust and the whole thing is probably going to fall apart the minute anyone tries to start the engine. From what I've heard, he's still as stupid, which is a miracle that he had a child. He still says he's going to be a porn star, even though he thinks OnlyFans is gross. I really hope I never run into the guy again, because I may end up just slamming my head into a desk. And that was r/Storiesaboutkevin. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you liked it, and also subscribe if you're new here. And make sure to turn on that notification bell so you never miss any of my future uploads.